So Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog, the little blue boy that was made to end Nintendo's monopoly over the gaming industry. We all know the story. The classic era of the Sonic series is home to some of the best 2D platformers of its time. And a bunch of weird spin-offs. Sonic Spinball, a pinball game with Sonic that's also based off of Sonic SatAM. Sonic Labyrinth, slowly wander around 3D spaces collecting keys. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, a Puyo Puyo reskin that's based on the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic Drift, a Sonic racing game that plays like pole position? That got a sequel! While these Sonic spin-offs don't make any damn sense, they all have one thing in common. They've got somewhat of a legacy. The arcade titles, on the other hand, time to crank that weirdness up to the max, cause we got some real gems here. Stuff like Waku Waku's Sonic Patrol Car. That should tell you all you need to know. But yeah, these arcade games are only ever remembered due to how obscure they are. That is, if they're remembered at all. But legend has it that Sega made a line of Sonic games that never left Japan, a series of some of the weirdest and most obscure Sonic games of all time. The Sega Sonic series. An interesting line that Sega only named Sega Sonic to avoid getting sued. From what I gathered, all these games released in 1993, right in between Sonic 2 and 3. 6 titles carried the name, 2 of which were cancelled. That's a good sign. Sega Sonic Popcorn Shop, a popcorn vending machine that has a little mini game you can play while the popcorn is cooking. Sonic Cosmo Fighter, an unbelievably easy space shooter. Sega Sonic Bros, a puzzle game featuring multicolored Sonics that also has a Genesis prototype. Sega Sonic Watam Scramble, or Cotton Candy Scramble, I guess. Basically Popcorn Shop, but with cotton candy instead of popcorn, which also has the added quirk of having 0 footage or prototypes anywhere. Apparently it would have had Sonic and Tails riding the tornado, as you already saw. Sega Sonic, gambling machine? The most unknown, and by that I mean I couldn't for the life of me find anything on it outside of a single image. It was made by Konami. If only we knew. But there is one game I haven't mentioned yet, the most well-known of the Sega Sonic brand. That's not saying much, but here we go! Sega Sonic the Hedgehog is a top-down platformer based off of Marble Madness. Someone looked at this and thought to themselves, needs more furries. Enough wasting time, this is my playthrough of Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, the forgotten Sonic platformer. So we open on one of the smoothest animations I've ever seen. Actually, this entire game has some of the smoothest animations of its era. It's just as uncanny as seeing a DS game run at 60 FPS. Anyway, we learned that this game has 3 playable characters as it is a 3-player game. Your first thought for extra playable characters in a Sonic game would probably be Tails and Knuckles, right? But remember, this was in development with Sonic 2. So, instead, we got 2 new characters. Mighty the Armadillo, who would later appear in Knuckles Chaotix, and Ray the Flying Squirrel, making his first and last appearance in the classic era. After selecting our character, we're immediately flung into a cutscene of Robotnik capturing whichever character we decided to play as. He then throws us in a prison where he immediately decides to do death traps as he sends a spike wall coming towards us. Very slowly. After breaking out of Robotnik's attempts on our lives, we realize he's got some tricks up his sleeves as he immediately sends a geyser out of the ground, fleeing us to the first level, Volcanic Volt. This level is very different from first levels in other games, as it takes place inside of a fucking volcano! After landing on a floating pile of rock, I guess, Eggman shows up to laugh and press a button, something he does in almost every level. But this must be the kill everything button, because every time it's the same button and it always sets off a different trap. And while we're on the subject of traps, how the hell are some of these Robotniks doing? I get some of these, but how the hell are erupting volcanoes, falling icicles, and literal tornadoes artificial traps? This level sees us outrunning a fire boulder, getting shot through the ceiling, running on conveyor belts while avoiding fire, climbing up a broken bridge, all of it ending with a final chase against fire while the very ground we run on keeps erupting. You know, basic first level stuff. After that, we're greeted with the second and probably most iconic level of the game, Icy Isle. Volcanic Volt was a pretty intense first level, but thankfully, Icy Isle is a lot more chill. And me. After nearly drowning and outpacing some icicles, we get to a part that I just kept failing at. It's a pretty simple obstacle on paper. Blocks of ice will slide across the screen to push you off the stage. Avoid them. But I don't know if it was the ice physics or my incompetence, because I just kept falling off. Thankfully, it's a short section, so after 5 seconds or so of pure suffering, we're back on track. After that, we run across slowly falling ground and go across monkey bars that immediately break, sending us flying across the ice, where we then bounce off a spring which sends us flying in the other direction and almost off the stage itself. After avoiding more icicles and spears that shoot up from out of the ground, and going down a windy path, I make it to the first real platforming section in this platformer. Dodging more spears and jumping across floating snow, I guess, brings us to the end of level 2 and the start of level 3, Desert Dodge. This level begins with a chase against multiple tornadoes while the very path we run on keeps caving in, also having a tricky little sinkhole in the corner of the stage. After running down another caving path and escaping another sinkhole, we get to a straightaway that crumbles beneath us as a robotic caterpillar starts to give chase. But after all that, there really isn't too much of note here. I mean, there are these worms that pop out of the ground, and this really tense section of wading through quicksand while the tornadoes close in on you. Then we get to the ending section, going down a path of moving sand that tries to push you off. Think of the ice blocks from Icy Isle, except this time a lot less painful. 3 levels down, and now we're at the midpoint of the game, Trap Tower. This level's got some fun 3D elements, like these gears, and these traps, which are completely bullshit. Now, I call these traps this because I cannot, for the life of me, figure out the timing for these things. Like, you either bounce off, run under, or get crushed by these things. But it is impossible to not feel like a gaming god when you run under every single one. After that pain, we're greeted with a pretty interesting chase against a gear while dodging electric fences, with a section of climbing a ladder while avoiding bombs being what ends the level. Next up, Landslide Limbo. This is the shit falling level, so there's not much to talk about. Let's see, there are these ropes you can grab onto, there's a sand wall you can run across, there are these catapults. Oh, and a wall you can run into, a la Looney Tunes. Now, I like the Looney Tunes wall. I don't know why, but I still like it. But the rest of the level, for me at least, was pretty unmemorable. That is, until you get to the ending segment. So it starts with this rock slide section and ends with the only boss in the game. And it's a toughie, but beating it brings you to the end of this level and the start of the second to last level of this game, Wild Waterway. Starting this level, I didn't know I actually had to run across the bridge, so I fell, and then fell again. Okay, a bit of a rough start, but this is the second to last level in the entire game, so I think I can be stupid at least once, right? After the scripted fall into the moat, we're chased by a very slow set of propellers while bombs rain down from above and turtles give us rings. Why don't you do that? After running through some clams, whatever the hell these things are supposed to be, another batch of bombs, and climbing up the side of a wall, we make it to the waterfall. Now this section, oh boy, this section. I'm gonna go ahead and say that 95% of my total deaths happened on this part specifically. And it's pretty simple on paper, just jump between the rafts. But this is when the controls for the game really start to cause problems. I'd either accidentally jump off, ricochet off the walls, or just phase through the platforms. I just couldn't tell which direction I needed to jump in, which was probably because I was playing on arrow keys and not an actual trackball. And this is a long section. Having 2 parts back to back. I eventually did do it, but I wouldn't call it fun. Okay, we made it. The final level. Eggman Tower. This is a worthy test of everything you'll learn while playing this game, split up into 3 different segments. We got the BS, we got the climbing, we got the collapsing paths, and finally we have the chases, all in one level. After 2 floors, we make it to Robotnik. He says something I can't read, presses a button, and then skedaddles. The ending chase. You have 20 seconds to get out of the tower before it explodes. This is the big finale, the big climax of the game. And what do I do? And to add insult to injury, if you fail this section, no matter how many lives you have, you get booted back to the start. Meaning if you just want a chance at this section again, you have to play through the entire game all over again. Now normally this would be a pretty big hit against the game, just like how it was with Sonic 1 and 2. But it's not for one main reason. Sonic 1 takes 2 hours to beat and Sonic 2 takes 30 minutes more. Sega Sonic the Hedgehog takes a total of 39 minutes. So starting from the beginning isn't that big of a deal. And besides, I beat it on my second try, so it's not like a huge amount of time was lost here. After clearing that, the game rewards us with a final shot of our 3 main characters running away as Eggman's Tower explodes in the background. And that's Sega Sonic the Hedgehog! A very fun little romp of an arcade game that you can easily clear within 40 minutes or so. Now don't get me wrong, this game certainly has problems, but at the end of the day, it's still just a coin-guzzling arcade machine and not an actual mainline entry in the classic series. And, in my opinion, the game doesn't stick around long enough for these problems to actually become, well, problems. But this also begs the question, why wasn't this game re-released? Funny enough, after I did the research, I found that this game did have plans to be re-released in Sonic Gems Collection. Now, if you don't know what Sonic Gems Collection is, it's basically a collection of, at the time, obscure Sonic games. Anyways, the reason that I found that this game was scrapped from Gems Collection was emulation difficulties. More specifically, the difficulty of importing the trackball controls of the game into other mediums of control, specifically like the GameCube's controllers. And that's a real shame, because most likely these trackball controls are one of the main reasons why this game hasn't been re-released under, like, say, Arcade Archives. But even if this game never sees the light of day ever again, it still finds a way to live on through Mighty and Ray. So, I think I'm okay with the current legacy this game has. Thanks for sticking around if you have. This video was a ton of fun to make, and I hope to see you in whatever I decide to ramble about next.